Good afternoon. Hi. My name is Caitlin Bell, and I'm the Gene Jones Director of Public Programs here at the Nevada Museum of Art. Thank you for spending your Friday lunch hour with us here today for a talk by Becky Hall. Deep Time Sea Dragons of Nevada is on view on the third floor through January 11th of 2026. Thank you to our many sponsors and community and education partners who have made this exhibition a possibility. We will take questions from all of you at the end of the talk, and we will be passing around a microphone. I know everyone does not like to speak into a microphone, but it's super important that we capture your voice for Becky as well as our recording. I'd now like to introduce you to today's speaker. With a background in education and science, Rebecca Hall has held leadership roles in organizations throughout the state of Nevada, most recently as the director of the Children's Museum of Northern Nevada and founder of the Nevada Science Center. A passionate geoscientist, she has built strong partnerships with organizations such as the Geological Society of Nevada and the Nevada Division of Minerals. Hall holds a Bachelor of Science in Earth and Environment from UNLV and is set to complete her Master of Science in Geoscience in 2025. Currently, Becky works as the Community Engagement Manager for the Nevada Mining Association, where she oversees statewide engagement initiative and supports the organization's communications and advocacy efforts. Please help me in welcoming Rebecca Hall.
Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Nevada Museum of Art, for having me today. And thank you all for being here and spending your lunch hour with me. Let me get started. So I guess before I get started into my talk, I'll do a little bit more background about myself. So I grew up in Wisconsin with my twin sister, spent a lot of time outside exploring, and I have been a resident here in Nevada since 2007. I am now a resident of Northern Nevada for just the past 2 years. I'm married. I don't know if anyone came last month to my husband's talk, Josh Bondi, but we're two paleontologists, so we get to have a lot of fun zigzagging across the state and looking at fossils and rocks around the state. Like Caitlin said, I'm the Community Engagement Manager at the Nevada Mining Association. So how does a paleontologist get into the Mining Association? Well, my background's outreach education, science communication. I've had a background in museums. And so it's very similar. I still get to have that outreach opportunities and get to talk to you about my work as a geologist. So today is, my talk is Triassic Vertebrate Trackways, a documentation of the earliest Mesozoic tracks here in Nevada. So before we get started, let's set the scene. So this is a ray troll pretty picture of the geologic timescale. If you've been coming to these talks with this as exhibit, I'm sure you've seen some form of the geologic timescale. So we're in the Mesozoic era, made up of the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. A lot of people know Jurassic's dinosaurs, the Cretaceous and extinction of dinosaurs, but less is known or I guess talked about with the Triassic. So the Mesozoic era starts with the age of reptiles, Pangea, so the supercontinent that then breaks up in the Triassic, or starts to, age of conifers, dinosaurs, birds, small mammals, and flowering plants. So it really sets some of the stage of what life's like today, even with that mass extinction. But not many people really know what started the Triassic. Oh, let's go back to where we are. Triassic, 250 to 200 million years ago. So Nevada is oceanfront property on Pangea. Here we are right here. Zoomed in, southern Nevada is sitting right on the coast, right on the beach, while central Nevada is sitting underwater, under shallow water, probably a good place for ichthyosaur nurseries. And we have continental pieces kind of smashing in the side of North America, later be California. So Pangea, supercontinent, we have this big sea, and it's straddling the equator, so we have very hot, dry climate. But leading up to the Triassic, I call it the Permian preface, 300 million years ago to about 250 million years ago. We have weird reptiles, amphibians. So you might recognize this one, Dimetrodon. Often gets confused with dinosaurs. They'll even include them in dinosaur toy packets. I always dig them out when we give them to our kids because they're not dinosaurs. I got a blanket from a friend, and I still cuddle with it, but it has one of these on there too. They're actually more closely related to mammals than they are dinosaurs. Amphibians, so we have this kind of salamander, weird terrestrial scene going on in the Permian. And then ocean life was different too. So huge sea scorpions, brachiopods, nautiloids, ammonites, trilobites. So big vast sea with lots of animals living in it. However, the Permian ends with Earth's biggest mass extinction, the Great Dying. So everyone knows about the dinosaur and the meteor that hit Earth and wiped them all out. This was an even bigger event. So 95% of marine life wiped out. 70% of terrestrial life, land animals, wiped out. 90% of species on Earth is gone. And they believe this is what's called by Siberian traps or volcanic activity. So the largest volcanic eruption in history of Earth, where they have basalt in some places a kilometer thick. And with this outgassing and volcanic activity, a lot of CO2s in the air, creating global warming, acid rain, ocean acidification. Another kind of interesting point was then they had pollen analysis, said that there was more fungi during this time, so maybe a lot of decomposing bodies, or maybe just a void in the plants where they were able to flourish. So wiping out life on Earth, we get to start brand new. So where is it going to go? Oh. So dawn of a new day. So we have a whole bunch of ecological niches on Earth, both on land and in the ocean, that are wiped, and opportunistic plants and animals are there to kind of fill those voids back in. It's a pivotal time in global ecological recovery. So what's going to happen? What's going to evolve? Who are going to take those places? So again, southern Nevada on the edge of the sea, central Nevada, we're underwater. But 240 million years ago, so 10 million years after the start of the Triassic, after the mass extinction, a diverse recovery of ecosystem was captured in the tidal mudflats in southern Nevada. And that's where I come in. So summer of 2018, graduate school, UNLV, I had the opportunity to be an intern at the Lake Mead National Recreation Area for NPS. And it was my job for that summer, hot summer, to document fossils, known sites, any new discovered sites, and then kind of take care of their collection. So that's me in a couple different areas of Lake Mead during that time. And then one night, it was the last week of my internship, I get a call from a classmate at UNLV, and he goes, "Hey, I was hiking along in Lake Mead, and I think I found some tracks." I don't mind, but I always get the email or the text message of like, "Is this a fossil?" So unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, I have to give the disappointing news. But he sent me this picture right here. And it's without the scale bar. This is a second picture I took. So it was kind of like a grainy, like field picture. And I'm like, okay, I kind of see some marks in the rock, maybe, right? I couldn't 100% tell from a picture. But hey, let's go check it out. So I brought Josh. We go to the site. We're looking around. And we find exceptionally preserved trace fossils, so footprints in the mud rock. So this is 240 million years old, so you have to keep that in mind. Any monsoon in Las Vegas would have just wiped these off. So I'm sure every rain that they get in Las Vegas, more and more is just getting washed out of the outcrop. But you can see skin impression in the scales, the claw marks. So this is pretty cool. So after collecting this and collecting a few more specimens, I return to the literature, right? So a lot of trackways are documented and researched in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado. So it's well known of these animals that lived in the early Triassic. However, they were just mentioned once. They weren't documented, they were just mentioned. So in 1928, geologist Chester Longwell, he wrote The Geology of the Muddy Mountains in 1928, where the Muddy Mountains are just right outside Las Vegas, outside the park boundaries of Lake Mead and Valley of Fire State Park. So in this publication was one of 5,500 or 55,000 publications and maps that Congress authorized to classify public lands, examine geologic structures, and mineral resources. So here's, in his report, there's Chester Longwell right there, horse and buggy doing geology in southern Nevada. Doing geology in southern Nevada, or just in Nevada alone, because our geology is not very easy to get to. I couldn't imagine doing it like this, like with a horse, a wagon. It's hard to keep enough water for yourself. I don't know how you do that with horses, but anyways, this is a cool picture from his report. But this is where he mentions tracks. It's like a 125 some odd page report. Page 47, he just casually mentions yellow and pink thinly laminated limey shale containing fine sand, has reptile tracks, rain prints, and abundant dendritic patterns. So he didn't take a picture, he didn't take any measurements, not a geolocation, just kind of briefly mentioned. He wasn't worried, or his concern wasn't the fossils, he was just trying to map the area and explain the geology of the Muddy Mountains. So what is an ichneofossil? So an ichneofossil, otherwise a trace fossil, or what we're looking at today, preserves record of an animal's behavior and its interaction with Earth. So they can come in the form of burrows, so a worm digging into the mud, trackways, like these animal footprints that we're talking about today, or coprolites. So this is a 100-million-year-old coprolite from the Valley of Fire State Park, from a crocodile. So if anyone doesn't know what a coprolite is, that's crocodile poop right there. So these are traces or evidence of animals and their behavior that was left behind. The naming system to ichnofossils is different than an animal. So an animal makes a trackway, so the trackway is named differently than the animal. So you don't usually find remains or an assemblage of fossils after a trackway. You don't get footprints and then boom, the animal, right? So that's kind of why they keep them separated. So what did we find at Lake Mead? Last week I was there. So the original fossil that was brought to my attention, and just several more. But you can tell that they're all different, they're different animals. It's not the same animal, even different species of animals. And we even have like more, like look at this one, we have like scales. So really, some are very nicely preserved. And then the one that has the skin impressions. So my last week collected, and then I have to, I'm no longer an employee of NPS, so I can no longer do research on their lands, so I have to apply for a permit. So that process, no matter where, it doesn't take, it's not overnight. It almost took a year, and they were so kind to give me another 3-month permit during the summer of 2019. So me and Josh, we went out. It was August. You just go out at the very break of day to try to get your research and your data collected. So we're out checking out the rocks. We're gathering data. We're compiling data to make a stratigraphic column, so an interpretation of the rock unit we were looking at. So this is the Moenkopi Formation, early Triassic. You can see Josh. He has his little Brunton and Jacob staff, and you can see all these rocks behind him. And if you see the rocks, you can see they're almost vertical. They're very I forget the dip of these, but and you can also see the ripples into the mud. So we're just gathering evidence, organizing data to interpret these rocks. This is from Longwell. This is the Moenkopi Formation, so same formation we're looking at. But look at the similarities. So we have like ripples, right? We still have those those dipping rocks. So the similarities obviously were kind of in his same area that he was doing his research. There was no map of his research area, just abroad where he was. So we turned our data into a strat column. So a stratigraphic column, it will kind of also tell us maybe the horizon where these fossils were found, just kind of puts everything together into a bigger picture. And then we can look at the evidence left behind. So we have 3 different ripple marks, right? But even the ripple marks can tell us something different. Are they asymmetrical? Are they symmetrical? Was the water moving fast or slow? So it all kind of gives us little pieces of the story of the environment. So now we kind of enter the COVID era. So 2019, we gathered our data. I don't know if anyone's been to a lot of these talks, but you can kind of tell there's usually research kind of takes a long time. So there's breaks in it. There's things that come up. But so we're entering the COVID era. We're finding things to keep ourselves busy, just like everyone else. Writing up dinosaurs and looking at fossils. So we go, hey, what if I wasn't about to apply for another NPS permit, I'm sorry. So it was very kind, but I was like, I don't have that time, you can't even submit them. We had a BLM permit, right? So here's a map of where the Moenkopi kind of outcrops. So we only have this little sliver here in southern Nevada. Then we can see like where Arizona is getting all their publications, or Utah. So we narrowed down our, what we were looking for, the horizon we were looking for. We were also looking at Longwell's notes, so he has early Triassic notes of his research in the area. And then we decided to go north. So here's where we found the tracks. It doesn't matter because you wouldn't find them even if I told you the coordinates, because they're really hard to find. And then up here is the Muddy Mountains. So this is where his report, this is the title. The Muddy Mountains are right here. It's where the Valley of Fire State Park, and then all of this area is Lake Mead National Recreation Area. So I said, hey, let's go north. I've been to the Muddy Mountains before. I actually, as an undergrad, my Field 1 class was in the Muddy Mountains. And this picture was from Longwell's, again, report. And even with this grainy black and white photo, I knew exactly where that was. I spent 3 weeks hating my life looking at these rocks. So as soon as I saw that, I said, I know where we're going. So I said, Josh, come on, we're gonna go here. So I mapped these Triassic rocks years before. So we head on out there, and this is more current picture of, not the same perspective, but the area. But again, we're in COVID era. So what do we do when we were all in the pandemic? We have to work with our kids, and our kids are working with us, and it's like a battle, and they have to do schoolwork, and we're trying to get work done. So after a while, we just decided, you're coming with us. So we have 5 girls, hear them eating lunch on the outcrop. Some days were better than others. They would cry, it's hot. I'm tired. Do we have to go hiking again? But other times they were really helpful. Like this is my daughter Kira. She has the Jacob staff, so our measuring instrument, and we were able to get them involved in the research. And not just this one. We were able to go to like Lincoln. We got all over the state during COVID, and at the time it felt like a pain in the butt. But looking back, I know I have those memories that at the time maybe I didn't really feel very positive about, but I'm really grateful I have them now, and I hope my kids, our kids look back at this time and think of, wow, we got to do pretty cool things. And of course, I can't forget the one and only Banjo. So this is our St. Bernard, 180-pound. He just turned 9 in December. He's also crossed Nevada with us and been on every outcrop that we have been on. He drinks from our water bladders, if you're wondering where he gets his water. That's why I don't know how they get the horses water, but he's been on our hikes too. So we're out there. We're out there the first day of Muddy Mountains, and we're only out there for maybe an hour, 2 at the very most. And we find the needle in the haystack. We find not just one track site, we find 3 other track sites in the Muddy Mountains, very close together. So we used our data collected from Lake Mead, our stratigraphic column of and we kind of narrowed down on this horizon with these trackways. So here's me in the Muddy Mountains with our new find. So very cool. And these were collected. We had a BLM permit. That we had collected these ones on. So we had vertebrate trackways, but then my daughter Nola, she found something else. It's really hard to see, so I have it outlined right here, and then I'll go back. But these little dots, like right here, they go this way and they go this way. Anyways, these are horseshoe crab tracks. So she actually found these tracks for us. So another little piece of the puzzle of the environment. And then in them, we also have some vertebrate tracks in those trackways too. So here's some more. Look at this slab. Here's some more right there. So she was very, very proud of herself. So we are on BLM land. The kids all have their backpacks. You're allowed to collect some rocks. And so we always let them have like a rock. We have a huge bins of rocks. So trying to narrow down our rocks. So, they have their rocks in their backpacks. We get home and, taking out the old lunch boxes. And Nola has I don't think she knew it was there, but in a rock that she had picked up, she also had more trackways in it and horseshoe crab. So we had to bribe her with some treats to give it up. But, I give her credit for finding the horseshoe crab tracks here. So what did we find all together? So from the National Park Service to the Muddy Mountains, what kind of animals did we find, or trackways did we find? So again, this is Rhododactylus, so we're naming the tracks, not the animal. So these are the oldest record of dinosaur morphology, biology, and evolution. These early dinosaurs. So dinosauromorphs, I think of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like they morph into dinosaurs. But they're early dinosaurs, and they're part of a group of archosaurs that are closely related to dinosaurs than pterosaurs or crocodiles. So they have these long, skinny fingers. You can still see kind of like the scales on this one, sloshing in the mud. Here's a paleo artist's picture of them. Maybe catching dragonflies on the tidal flats, who knows? And that really nice fossil specimen. The next we have Chirotherium, weird creatures. These are called the hand beast or the 5-finger footprints. So they kind of have hands like ours, like with this thumb. These are archosaurs, but more closely related to crocodilians. But we have some nice trackways from them too. So this is a kind of a look at these animals. Could you imagine them like roaming around? I don't know. It kind of seems so sci-fi to me. But their back feet were much bigger than their front feet. So this is the back, this is the front. And then this slab kind of captures them together. It's kind of cool. So a lot of these pieces you'll see in other research are like big slabs. big slabs that are that have a whole bunch of trackways on them. These very brittle, so they fall apart. A lot of them are already broken off the outcrop. So I haven't found a huge slab of them yet. It's just kind of more of like these bits and pieces that we're putting together. But this one's nice because there's the front and the back on there. Oh, there's a zoom-in picture, and those are those scales that I was talking about earlier. So again, weird animals. And our tracks, they come in different, like, I guess, preservation, right? So we have just claw marks to the skin impressions. So, but you can tell there's a whole bunch of them. And we didn't collect all the ones with just a little nail print in them. And I'm a bad paleontologist. I can barely say this word, so don't. Rankosauroids. Josh is better at this than me. But these include the orders of lizards and snakes and lizard-like reptiles. There's a little footprint there. So the bigger picture. So like I said, that's why it was so important to talk about the Permian. So the Permian really sets up for this, what happens next. And to have those in Nevada exposed and found, we have this now collection of what happened, what was the rebound here in southern Nevada, and not just in southern Nevada, but in the Triassic. And it's using these small little pieces to understand what life was like 240 years ago. So this is also laying down the foundation for future research in the area. So for me, I have to still write this up. This is my thesis, so I'm finishing this up. And I want to dedicate this research project to my dear daughter, Nola. People who don't know us, we were in a horrible car accident a couple years ago. And not only do we miss our daughter, but it's kind of kept us from the outcrop. So I'm hoping this summer we'll be able to get back on the outcrop and collect more specimens and do more research. And with that, I want to thank the Nevada Museum of Art for having me and letting me share my research. My position at the Nevada Mining Association, NPS, even though they gave me summer permits, I'm very grateful that they'll let me do work on there. The Children's Museum of Northern Nevada. So I know Caitlin introduced me. I used to be the director there. I still am involved there. I built a lab there. So the fossil specimens right now are at the Children's Museum because they're still considered research specimens, and I have a permit for them to be there. We're opening it up there. There are going to be students in there from UNR working on other projects. So if you ever get down to Carson City, head into the Children's Museum where you can see some of this research going on. The Nevada State Museum, so once our research done with any of our projects that are in the lab, they get then turned over to the State Museum as a repository, and then the BLM for being so nice to work with and getting our permits also. So with that, I'll start taking questions, I guess.
Given the fragility of the rock, how did you remove the specimens and transport them?
Yes, let me go back to a couple slides. So very carefully, and we weren't collecting a lot at a time. I kind of want to go back to this picture, yes. So we weren't collecting a lot at the time. We were just, these are very small pieces. So we, I think, toilet paper or paper towel wrapped them up. But what I did, if you see right here, this is how I collected the ones in the Muddy Mountain on the outcrop. So the surface, it's very, brittle, fragile mud, right? So these are just little flakes of them up here. So any type of trackways would just be kind of like not there. So I kind of dug in the same orientation that the rocks were sloping in the into the ground, and I basically took a chunk out, like into the hill, and then pulled them out, packed them in a bag, and then I didn't actually because they come in layers, so I didn't go through them until we were at the lab. Because they are so fragile, and so I was using like a paintbrush, very little bit of water, if there was mud caked on, but some of them are very, very thin, so just being very careful. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. It was really good, and good luck on your thesis. I've often wondered, with all those dinosaurs and animals running around in a given period, and then there just happens to be some that making tracks, what geological process occurred that allowed particular tracks to be preserved so we can find it now 200 million years later?
Right. So for these ones specifically, well, it's hard, right? They're not very commonly found, but where they are preserved, we're talking about the tides, right? So tides come in and come out. So every time they come in, they're adding more sediment to the in out. So when these animals are stepping in the mud, it's quickly getting backfilled, right? If there's water, and it's just there's nothing it's a whole bunch of different factors that went into the preservation of these fossils, but that's why that's why we don't find dinosaurs everywhere or fossils everywhere, because there has to be, just the right environment and situation to preserve these fossils, both tracks and body fossils.
Thank you.
You showed one of the animals snapping at dragonflies, and some of the others had pretty impressive teeth. Were these mostly carnivores? Were there some herbivores? What did each of these, each type eat?
So they're probably like omnivores. So they probably ate a little bit of plants and animals, especially with those teeth. We have like the smaller ones, maybe they were just eating, well, they eat like, crickets, or like what lizards eat today, little reptiles eat today. And there were bigger predatory with the big teeth eating other animals.
So my question is about when you're out scouting areas looking for these fossils, do you ever need to really excavate deeper than maybe a good foot or two to find these relics?
So in general with fossils?
Yes.
So generally speaking, to try to find a fossil, you're going to be you're not just going to say like, hey, I'm going to dig a hole right here, because that's probably going to be unsuccessful but I knew where I was trying to dig. That's why that was the trackways were successful, because I had a stratigraphic column and I kind of correlated it to Lake Mead, like, okay, we were how many meters down and the type of mudstone we were in. So that was different, because I did just dig into a spot thinking maybe this is where it would be. But for body fossils, a lot of the time it's what you see on the surface. So as it's at the surface, it's weathering away. You find fragments of animals, and then you're either seeing if it's coming out of a hill, if it's coming out from right where you're at. And we're never digging more than just an inch or two underneath the surface to see if there's remains underneath. So there's not a lot of digging unless we actually find a bigger bone or fossil, then we start moving the earth away from it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does the Moenkopi range, does that extend west into Red Rock Canyon at all? Into that BLM
Yes, there's
conservation
Triassic
area?
rocks in there too, yeah.
Nice,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Yeah.
Hello, I just want to be clear, this preface era that you're talking about, that you want to focus on, that is before the Mesozoic?
Mesozoic, yeah, the
Mesozoic.
Permian, yes, it's kind of, so Earth had its largest mass extinction right before the Triassic, right before the Mesozoic, wiping out 90% of life here on Earth.
So the hand beast creature would have been part of the mass destruction?
Yeah, so those were kind of like the first species that came out of
Wow.
So we have that like period of 10 million years or so from the end of the Permian to the Moenkopi rocks are 240 million years old. That's why we can see this little glimpse of how life returned back on Earth after this mass extinction.
And you used a term, Jacob staff. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, so that's our instrument to measure rocks. It's that stick that's like black and white. I named ours Jelly Bean. I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's also used for, a scale bar. It's good too.
And who named it that? How long is it? Did you name it that?
I named mine Jelly Bean. I made
very
my own.
biblical.
Yeah,
Okay.
I made my. It was out of they just made it and called it Jelly Bean.
Thank you. Okay.
One more. Hi. How many of your ichnofossils have you been able to pair with actual critters?
So I have 3 different kind of species of animals going on. So that's kind of what I presented. So I have 3 different species of animals that I have identified that they could, or trackways that they came from. But they're all from different, they're not the same animal, just 3 groups of species.
Hi. We're wondering, for a layperson that's out looking around and we see something that looks interesting, who would we call to say we have something interesting if we're out in the northern Nevada desert, or southern for that matter?
Yeah, so that's always a good question. So if you really think it's something, the first thing that I tell everyone, it's really hard to, is try not to disturb it or pick it up, because it kind of loses scientific value. When you bring it in and you move the location of it, it's, even if you aren't trying to keep it yourself and you're trying to, it just loses scientific value. So as you saw, we were doing rock studies along with the fossils, because it also tells us an important story. So take a picture of it, take a GPS. You can contact me. The state paleontologist is in this room. The State Museum, also UNR. So anyone you want to kind of confirm with, I would say a few of those resources. You can always contact your local BLM office, and they'll direct you to.
Becky, can you talk about how you discover crocodile poo? Is it following the tracks? Like, do you find it in the tracks?
So, no, that was a different situation. There's this place, so there's Cretaceous rocks in the Valley of Fire. So that's where one of our locations we get dinosaurs out of. That's 100 million years old, so Cretaceous in age. There's a site out there called the Dentists, I think. Is that what we call it? There's just a lot of teeth for some reason. But then it was just a pile of stuff, and one used to be and it was crocodile poop. And how do you know it's poop? Let's see where I'm at. See if I can find those. There we go. Sphincter striations. So you can kind of see those right there. But there are paleontologists that study this.
I don't think we can end it on that note. Is there anyone? Okay, there we go.
I'm not going to follow up on poop. I'm curious, just as how in the world did you stop digging at certain sites? Like, I would still be out there, like 24/7. How did you make the decision? Okay, I've done enough at this site. Time to move on to another one.
So with the data collected, right? So we don't, once with a permit, so whether that's from the Park Service, BLM, once you collect an item, you are responsible as a researcher with your permit to forever take care of that specimen. And what are you going to do with it? So I can pick out a few really good tracks to bring with me to say like, hey, this is all we need to know. We can identify the type of track, and then move on. Yeah, it'd be cool, but what are you going to do with a whole bunch of mudstone? You have to store it. And so that and that also goes with body fossils, right? So when we're out prospecting, there's a lot of fossils we don't pick up because, one, they aren't identifiable, right? So a bone fragment could be from any animal, but you have to have identifying characteristics of a fossil to be able to collect it. So if it's a footprint that only has one toe or a claw mark, I'm not going to pick that one up because there's not really identifying data to come off of it. So it's exciting, but what's more exciting is finding the next spot. So I found 3 new sites out in the Muddy Mountains. So for me, it was okay, we found it here. Where else can we find it? So I think it's always the new discovery, which is the exciting part. One more question.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure out with DNA, the fossils, are they too old to be able to pull any DNA? And at what point in history can DNA become viable for you?
So DNA is organic, right? So after, I don't know, right? So there's some Pleistocene, frozen Siberian animals they're digging DNA out of, but there's a limit on that. Definitely not dinosaurs.
Okay, thank you so much, Becky.
And thank you for having me. Thank you.